Hello to all of my wonderful viewers. This is Emmy from Tajik-American Voice. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Why is Islamophobia tolerated? In today's society, wherever you go, people are implicitly or explicitly showing their hatred or prejudices or racism towards somebody who classifies themselves as a Muslim. As I had stated, it's happening everywhere. We're seeing it in social media. We're seeing it in mainstream media. Sometimes we're seeing it being expressed by people who are in higher positions. Also, we're seeing it in our education system. Every scenario you can think of, racism or Islamophobia somehow is tolerated. And why is this? Why is Islamophobia tolerated? First of all, let's go over some of the misconceptions about Muslims in society. I want you to answer these questions to the best of your knowledge, and then I'm going to go over them. First misconception is about Muslims practicing female genital mutilation. Is this a part of the Islamic religion, or is this people's cultural beliefs? The right answer is people's cultural beliefs, which has nothing to do with the Islamic religion. Today there are many people who are non-Muslims and they practice female genital mutilation. Therefore, it has more to do with people's personal cultures than the Islamic religion. So that's the first misconception, which is false. The Islamic religion is against female genital mutilation, and if somebody is practicing it, it's due to their own personal cultures, which has nothing to do with the Islamic religion. As a matter of fact, the Islamic religion came against these types of inhumane cultures. The second misconception is Muslim men abuse their women and force them to wear the hijab. Once again, this is people's personal cultures and it has nothing to do with the Islamic religion. The Islamic religion is against forcing people into anything. You do not force people to do anything against their will. When a person is forcing a woman to wear the hijab or not to wear the hijab, forcing people to do things the way they want them to do it, that has nothing to do with the Islamic religion. That is part of their culture. And most of the time, it's the culture of ignorance. Forcing people into anything is not a part of the Islamic religion. It goes against the teachings of the Islamic religion, which is about human rights. The third misconception: children are forced into marriages at a young age. That's false. Again, this has nothing to do with the Islamic religion. It has everything to do with people's personal cultures. Unfortunately, many Muslim nations are largely illiterate. Many of these nations have faced war and violence. Another misconception is that Islam is a race. There are people from all backgrounds in every religion on this planet, especially when it comes to the three Abrahamic religions. You're going to find people from all backgrounds who are Muslims, Christians, and Jews. When it comes to the Islamic religion, there's only one human race. For this reason, it's very difficult for Muslims to categorize themselves and put themselves in different human categories. Therefore, when Islam is categorized as a race, most Muslims do not want to clarify. However, I believe it's time that Muslims pay attention to these types of topics, because today there is this misconception that all Muslims are from the same region and they all look the same. So I've decided to put Muslims in different ethnic categories. There are Turkic Muslims, Turkic meaning people from the current nation of Turkey, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan. These people are categorized as Turkic, and most of these people are Muslims. These are Muslim nations. And then we have the Iranian or Aryan people, which includes people from the current nation of Iran, people from the current nation called Afghanistan, and people from the current nation of Tajikistan. And of course, there are many other ethnicities living in those nations, but the majority of the people are of an ancient Aryan or Iranian ancestry. And most of these people are Muslim. And then we have people from South Asia, which includes the current nation of Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. And then we have East Asia, which includes Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, and many other places. Then we have the surrounding regions of Russia. Some people call it the Caucasus, like, Chechnya, Russia, Bulgaria. These areas also have a large Muslim population. And also in Europe, we have the nation of Bosnia, Herzegovina, we have Kosovo, we have Albania, and we have the Muslims from Arab and African nations. These are some of the Muslim populated nations. So as you can see, Muslims are pretty diverse. Islam is not a race, it's a religion. Just like, Judaism, just like Christianity, you're going to find people of all ethnic backgrounds practicing Christian religion and the Jewish religion. The same goes with the Islamic religion. You're going to find different people from different backgrounds. Another misconception: women are not allowed to study. The Islamic religion encourages women to study and explore and learn, because in the Islamic religion, women have a higher place than men, because women are mothers. Therefore, when it comes to education, it's very important that every woman gets an education. So what you're seeing in some parts of the world where women are not allowed to study or go to school, that has nothing to do with the Islamic religion, but has everything to do with people's personal cultures and politics. Today, there are many Muslims who are living in Western nations, but they are too afraid to tell people about their identities, just like what happened during the period of Nazi Germany, where many people were forced to hide their Jewish identities because they did not want to get persecuted by the Nazis. Today, we're seeing the same thing when it comes to Muslims. There are many Muslims who are walking amongst you, but they are afraid to talk about their religious identities because of what's happening in the world today, especially when it comes to Muslims with Caucasian features from European nations, from Turkey, from the Iranian or Aryan nations like Iran, Afghanistan, and Tajikistan. Many of these people have Caucasian features. So, and many of them are not talking about their religious identities because they are afraid. So this brings me to the next topic of how a genocide begins to happen. According to this website called Holocaust Memorial, it talks about the 10 stages of genocide. The first stage is classification. The difference between people are not respected. There's a division of us and them, which can be carried out using stereotypes or excluding people who are perceived to be different. Today, this is what's happening to the Muslim community. And we're seeing it in mainstream media, where people are openly biased, where people openly state that we cannot get along with them because they're different than us. This is exactly what was happening in Nazi Germany. The second stage is symbolism. This is a visual manifestation of hatred. Jews in Nazi Europe were forced to wear yellow stars to show that they were different. Today, Muslims are being stereotyped and labeled under one category. 3. Discrimination. The dominant group denies civil rights or even citizenship to identified groups. The 1935 Nuremberg laws stripped Jews of their German citizenship, made it illegal for them to do many jobs or to marry German non-Jews. 4th, dehumanization. Those perceived as different are treated with no form of human rights or personal dignity. During the genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda, Tutsis were referred to as cockroaches. The Nazis referred to Jews as vermin. I'm not gonna give you any specific examples of what's happening in today's world, but many of you can come to your own conclusions. 5. Organization. Genocides are always planned. Regimes of hatred often train those who go on to carry out the destruction of a people. 6. Polarization. Propaganda begins to spread by hate groups. The Nazis used the newspaper, Der Stürmer, to spread and incite messages of hate about Jewish people. 7. Preparation. Perpetrators plan the genocide. They often use euphemisms, such as the Nazis' phrase, the final solution, to cloak their intentions. They create fear of the victim group, building up armies and weapons. 8. Persecution. Victims are identified because of their ethnicity or religion, and death lists are drawn up. People are sometimes segregated into the ghettos, deported or starved, and property is often expropriated. Genocidal massacre began. 9. Extermination. The hate group murders their identified victims in a deliberate and systematic campaign of violence. Millions of lives have been destroyed or changed beyond recognition through genocide. 10. Denial. The perpetrators or later generations deny the existence of any crime. So these were the 10 stages of genocide according to the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust. Today there are many Muslims living in Western nations and high places who are too afraid to talk about the topic of Islamophobia because they don't want to lose their jobs or they don't want to lose their audiences. Therefore, Islamophobia is allowed to be tolerated. After what happened to the Jewish people during the Holocaust, where many Jews, along with gypsies and others, were exterminated by the Nazi regime, the Jewish people have become organized. And we can see that all over the world for their own protection, because they do not want that to happen to them again. Every human group deserves to live in a dignified and humane way. I believe the Muslim community should learn from the Jewish community and become organized. It's time for Muslims to realize that when it comes to the Islamic religion, just like the Jewish religion, there are people who are Orthodox, Muslims, and then there are people who identify as a Muslim but they're not practicing. So everybody needs to learn to respect one another. Therefore, if somebody does not want to wear the Islamic clothing, or if somebody does not want to wear the hijab, that's their right. They should not be judged for it. And if somebody wants to wear it, that's also their choice. Therefore, people in Muslim communities need to stop judging one another. Unfortunately, there are many people who do judge one another. The Islamic religion gives people the right to choose for themselves. So if somebody wants to cover themselves, that's their choice. If somebody doesn't want to, that's also their choice. And this is something that the Muslim community needs to come to a realization. It doesn't mean that if someone is not wearing the hijab, or somebody doesn't have a beard, or they're not wearing, the little hat, they're not a Muslim. It's time for the Muslim community to unite and, respect each other for who they are. Also, Muslims need to realize that the Muslim community is very diverse. People have their own personal cultures, which is separate from the Islamic religion. For example, if someone is from Chechnya, they have their own set of, cultures and traditions not related to the Islamic religion. So we cannot go around and start acting like somebody from Chechnya, which, because that's their personal cultures. Or let's say someone from Pakistan. Today I see many mosques all over the US, with Pakistani imams. And at times they're mixing their own personal cultures with the religion. The same goes to every other person from a different ethnic background. We have to respect one another for our own individual cultures and customs. For example, people in the Iranian or Aryan regions, like Iran, like Afghanistan, and like Tajik-American, these people celebrate Nowruz, which is an ancient Aryan tradition. That's just part of their individual cultures and customs. So you cannot tell those people that you cannot practice Nowruz anymore because it has nothing to do with Islam. At this time, there's a lot of Islamophobia going on, and it's being tolerated. So let's get to the question. Why is Islamophobia being tolerated? Islamophobia is being tolerated because most Muslims cannot relate to the Islamophobes' version of Islam, because most Muslims are also against that. When you hear someone say that Muslims practice female genital mutilation, Muslims are against that. Or, when you hear somebody in mainstream media saying that Muslims believe in forced marriages, many Muslims are also against that. So Muslims cannot relate to what these Islamophobes are saying, because everything that they're saying goes against the Islamic religion. Therefore, many people are quiet. The Islamic religion is a religion of human rights. So anything that goes against human rights is against Islam. That includes child marriages, that includes female genital mutilations, that includes forcing women to dress a certain way, and the list goes on. So anytime you see something that takes away people's human rights, that's against the Islamic religion. So once the Muslim community realizes that, perhaps it's going to bring people together. It's going to allow people to accept one another rather than differentiate, because Muslims, just like Jews, just like Christians, come from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different continents. All Muslims do not look the same. The Muslim community needs to respect one another. Cannot tell them, hey, you have to wear the hijab. So people need to stop judging one another and forcing one another to do something that they do not want to do. In order to stop Islamophobia from being tolerated, the Muslim community needs to work on itself. So once again, why is Islamophobia being tolerated? It's because the Muslim community lack knowledge about themselves. So in order for Islamophobia to end, the Muslim community needs to come together from all backgrounds. People need to stop judging one another. People need to start respecting each other's individual cultures rather than judging one another and considering themselves a better Muslim because of whatever reason. Unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that. where some people from some nations consider themselves to be better Muslims than other people, and they're stepping on the whole entire Muslim community and allowing Islamophobia to be tolerated. Please let me know what you think. Please share your comments, questions, and suggestions. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me to further discuss this topic, please write down your comments down below, and I will find a way to get in touch with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Have a wonderful day or night wherever you are.